She humiliated me by suing for my grandmother's bakery. So I humiliated her by playing the recording of her manipulating my daughter, watching her lose her home and job. My name is Clara Rodriguez, and for 30 years, I believed that keeping the peace meant swallowing my pride. I was the designated peacemaker in our family, the one who smoothed things over when my older sister, Isabella, created tsunamis of drama. Our story begins not with a bang, but with the slow, simmering pot of resentment that finally boiled over, scalding everyone in its path. The thing Isabella tried to steal from me wasn't just a business. It was my daughter's future, and the secret recipe that had been in our family for 4 generations. I was the quiet, practical sister. While Isabella was being crowned homecoming queen and learning how to work a room, I was in my abuela's kitchen, my small hands covered in flour, learning the precise folds for perfect empanadas. Our grandmother, Rosa, was the heart of our family, and her tiny bakery, Dulce, was its soul. It wasn't fancy, but the line out the door every morning was a testament to the magic she created. She had one secret recipe passed down from her mother, the formula for Rosa's heavenly conchas. The sweet bread was legendary, with a shell-patterned topping that cracked perfectly, and a flavor that was both delicate and profound. It was the bakery's signature, its lifeblood. Isabella saw the bakery as a dusty relic. She was ambitious, with a business degree and a hunger for a glamorous life. She moved to the city after college, becoming a marketing executive for a large corporation. She would come home for holidays, her perfume expensive and her criticisms sharper. "You're wasting your life, Clara," she'd say, waving a manicured hand at the bakery. "This is a dinosaur. You should sell the property, it's worth a fortune. This sentimental nonsense is holding you back." I didn't see it as holding back. After Abuela Rosa passed away, she left Pan Dulce to me. The will was clear. To my granddaughter, Clara, who has the flour in her veins and the heart to keep the ovens warm. Isabella received a generous cash inheritance, which she used as a down payment on a luxury condo. I poured my inheritance, my soul, into the bakery. I worked 18-hour days. I modernized the equipment, expanded the menu with my own creations, and built a loyal customer base that stretched far beyond our neighborhood. My sanctuary was the warm, yeasty smell of the bakery at 4 a.m., the quiet hum of the mixers, the sight of the sunrise through the flour-dusted window. It was more than a business. It was my daughter Sophia's legacy. I dreamed of one day teaching her the secret recipe, just as Abuela Rosa had taught me. The pattern of injustice was a familiar recipe itself. When our mother was sick, it was I who moved in for 3 months managing her care, while Isabella flew in for a weekend, posting tearful selfies from the hospital room. When our father needed help navigating his retirement finances, it was my kitchen table where he spread his papers, not Isabella's polished marble counters. I was reliable, dependable Clara. Isabella was the dazzling, distant star we were all supposed to admire. The foundation of the current crisis was laid 8 years ago, during a particularly brutal winter. Isabella's high-flying career had crashed. A corporate merger left her unemployed and drowning in debt. She showed up on my doorstep, her pride in tatters, and I, of course, took her in. She stayed with Sophia and me for 6 months. It was during this time of forced proximity that she saw the true value of Pan Dulce. She saw the constant stream of customers, the catering orders from wealthy clients, the robust online business I had built. She saw me decline a 6-figure offer from a national chain that wanted to buy the concha recipe. Her eyes, for the first time, held a calculating gleam instead of disdain. "I could help you, you know," she said one night, after her 3rd glass of wine. "Your branding is amateur. Your social media is pathetic. With my expertise, we could turn this little shop into an empire." I declined gently. "This is enough for me, Isabella. It provides a good life for me and Sophia. I don't need an empire." She never forgave me for that rejection. It was the moment I went from being her pitiful sister to her competition. When she finally moved out, landing a new job, the dynamic had shifted permanently. The condescension returned, but now it was laced with something new, a hungry, resentful envy. The sanctuary of my bakery, which had always been my refuge from her judgment, was now in her crosshairs. She just needed the right opportunity to make her move. The invitation came in the form of a registered letter. It was stiff, formal, and completely out of character. It requested my presence at the office of a lawyer I'd never heard of for a family matter concerning the estate of Rosa Rodriguez. My heart sank. Had I missed something in Abuela's will? Was there some legal loose end Isabella had discovered? I went to the lawyer's office alone, my stomach in knots. Isabella was already there, looking polished and severe in a sharp business suit. She didn't smile. The lawyer, a thin man with a perpetual frown, got straight to the point. "Ms. Rodriguez," he said, addressing me, "your sister, Isabella Rodriguez, has filed a petition challenging the validity of your grandmother's will. She is asserting that you exercised undue influence over Rosa Rodriguez in her final years, coercing her into leaving you the bakery and its assets to the exclusion of her other heir." The heir left the room. "What? That's a lie!" Abuela was of sound mind until the day she died. She left me the bakery because I was the one who loved it. Isabella got her share in cash. Isabella finally spoke, her voice cold and level. "It's your word against mine, Clara. I have statements from friends who said Mama Rosa was confused and dependent on you in those last months. I have financial records showing you were the sole beneficiary on all her accounts at the end. It doesn't look good. This was the escalation. She wasn't just making a claim. She was fabricating a narrative that painted me as a manipulative caretaker who had stolen my grandmother's legacy. I would never do that," I cried, my voice shaking with a mixture of hurt and fury. "Then prove it," she said, her eyes glinting. "This doesn't have to be ugly. I'm willing to settle. Today. You sign over 51% ownership of Pan Dulce to me, and I drop the lawsuit. I'll even let you stay on as head baker. It's more than fair." This was the line in the sand. She wasn't just asking for money. She was demanding my sovereignty. She wanted to be my boss, to have control over the ovens, the recipes, my daughter's future. The bakery would no longer be Pan Dulce. It would be a branded, soulless franchise under her command. The head baker offer was an insult, a demotion in my own life's work. I looked at my sister, this stranger in a lawyer's office, and I saw the culmination of a lifetime of entitlement. The hurt was a physical pain, a sharp twist in my chest. But as I watched her smug, confident face, waiting for me to crumble, the pain didn't dissolve into tears. It crystallized. It turned into something hard, clear, and sharp. The emotion didn't vanish. It was forged into a weapon. The shift was absolute. I stood up, my knees trembling but my voice steady. "No," I said. "I will not sign over my bakery. I will not reward your lies. If you want a war, Isabella, you've got one." I turned and walked out of the office, leaving her and her lawyer in stunned silence. I didn't go to the bakery. I went home to my daughter. I hugged her tightly, breathing in her scent, and I made a silent promise. I would protect what was hers. Then I picked up the phone. The time for keeping the peace was over. It was time to gather my allies. My first call was to Mateo, my head baker and my closest friend. He was a man of few words but immense loyalty. I told him everything, my voice cracking only once. There was a long pause on the other end. Then his calm, steady voice. "Clara, she has no idea what she started. The whole neighborhood will stand with you. We are your witnesses. We will be your army." My second call was to Lillian, a retired family court judge who came into the bakery every single day for her concha and coffee. She was a woman of formidable intellect and a deep sense of justice. I asked her if she could recommend a lawyer. "Child," she said, her voice warm but firm over the phone, "you don't need a lawyer. You need a gladiator. You need Eleanor Vance. She specializes in beating back frivolous, predatory lawsuits from greedy family members. I'm calling her right now." Eleanor Vance was in her 60s, with kind eyes that could turn to ice in a courtroom. In her office, surrounded by legal books, I laid out the entire sordid story. I told her about the lifetime of favoritism, the will, Isabella's downfall, and the fabricated claims of undue influence. Eleanor listened, taking notes. When I finished, she set her pen down. Clara, she said, this is a classic shakedown. She's using the cost and stress of litigation as a weapon to force you to capitulate. She's betting you'll fold to avoid a public fight. Our strategy is twofold. First, we dismantle her legal argument until there's nothing left. Second, we go on the offensive and show the court exactly who she is. The gathering of evidence became my new nightly ritual. After closing the bakery, I would sit with Eleanor and we would build our case. Step 1. Proving Abuela's competence. We tracked down Abuela Rosa's longtime doctor, who provided a sworn affidavit stating she was of sound mind until her final illness. We found the lawyer who drafted the will, who testified that Rosa was clear, decisive, and specific in her wishes. We gathered statements from dozens of customers and neighbors who described a vibrant, sharp woman who was fiercely proud of me and the bakery. Step 2. Exposing Isabella's motive. With a subpoena, Eleanor obtained Isabella's financial records. They were a disaster. Her new job was on the rocks. Her condo was facing foreclosure. The cash from our grandmother was long gone. The lawsuit wasn't about justice. It was a desperate financial Hail Mary. Step 3. The digital paper trail. Isabella had been careless. I scoured old emails and text messages. I found one she'd sent me years ago after Abuela's funeral. It read, "I'm glad Mama left you that dusty old bakery. Cash is so much more useful. Don't come crying to me when it fails." It was a direct contradiction to her claim of being a wronged heir who cherished the family legacy. Step 4. Fortifying the recipe. Upon Eleanor's advice, I took a crucial step I'd never considered. I formally trademarked the name Rosa's Heavenly Conchas and filed for a trade secret protection on the recipe itself. It was no longer just a family secret. It was a legally protected asset. The most powerful evidence, however, came from an unexpected source. My daughter Sophia, now 12, came to me one evening. "Mommy," she said, her face serious, "Aunt Isabella came to my school last week. She picked me up and took me for ice cream. She told me that you were being stubborn and that you might lose the bakery. She said if I talked to you, maybe you'd listen and we could all be a family again." My blood ran cold. Using my child was a violation of a sacred boundary. But Sophia was smart. "I recorded it on my phone," she said softly. "I didn't like what she was saying about you." The recording was crystal clear. Isabella's voice, sweet and manipulative, trying to use a child as a pawn in her legal game. We had them. We had the truth, the motive, the evidence, and the shocking depth of her manipulation. We were no longer just defending. We were ready to expose her completely. The quiet baker was gone. In her place was a strategic, determined fighter. We were ready for the reckoning. The confrontation took place in a mediation chamber, a final step before a public trial. Isabella arrived with her lawyer, her confidence seeming brittle. Eleanor and I sat across from them, a stack of binders between us. Her lawyer began with bluster. "My client is seeking an equitable resolution to a deeply painful family dispute. The evidence of Ms. Clara Rodriguez's isolation of her grandmother in her final years is compelling. We are prepared to present multiple witnesses." Eleanor didn't even look up from her notes. "Please," she said, her voice dripping with quiet sarcasm, "let's not waste the court's time with fiction. Let's talk about facts." She opened the first binder. "Fact 1, Eleanor began, sliding the doctor's affidavit across the table. Rosa Rodriguez was deemed mentally competent by her physician until 2 weeks before her death. Fact 2. She slid the original lawyer's statement. She was clear and unwavering in her desire to leave the bakery to Clara. Fact 3. She displayed Isabella's financial records. This lawsuit was filed 48 hours after your client received a foreclosure notice on her condominium. This isn't about legacy. It's about liquidity. Isabella's face was turning pale. Her lawyer was frantically shuffling papers. But let's move beyond the financial motive to the character of the petitioner, Eleanor continued, her voice hardening. She played the audio recording from Sophia's phone. The room filled with Isabella's voice, syrupy and false. "Your mom is just so stubborn, Sophia. She might lose everything." You should talk to her. The effect was devastating. Isabella looked like she'd been slapped. She recorded me? A child? That child had more integrity than you've shown in this entire proceeding, Eleanor said coldly. You attempted to weaponize a 12-year-old against her own mother. This court takes a very dim view of that. Eleanor then presented the final blow, our counterclaim. We were suing Isabella for malicious prosecution and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We detailed the financial cost of her lawsuit and the profound personal toll her betrayal had taken. This was the collapse. Isabella's lawyer put his head in his hands. We wish to discuss settlement, he mumbled, all fight gone from his voice. Isabella was utterly broken. The facade of the powerful businesswoman had crumbled, revealing a desperate, defeated woman. She wouldn't even look at me. The consequences were legally binding and severe. The settlement agreement was a total victory for me. Isabella was forced to immediately and permanently withdraw her lawsuit with prejudice, meaning she could never file it again. She was ordered to pay all my legal fees and significant financial damages for the business income lost during the legal battle. Furthermore, a permanent restraining order was issued, barring her from contacting me, my daughter, or coming within 500 feet of the bakery. The final poetic justice was that the court formally recognized me as the sole and legal owner of the Rosa's Heavenly Conchas trademark and trade secret, putting it forever beyond her reach. The repercussions echoed through her life. To pay the damages, she had to declare bankruptcy. She lost her condo and her job, her reputation in the business community destroyed by the details of the case that inevitably leaked out. The enabling force of her own avarice had consumed her completely. The first morning after the legal battle ended, I arrived at the bakery before sunrise. The silence was different. It was no longer the anxious quiet of a place under siege, but the deep, peaceful silence of a sanctuary reclaimed. I lit the ovens myself, the familiar roar a comforting sound. When Mateo and the rest of the team arrived, I gathered them. It's over, I said, my voice filled with the emotion I couldn't name, a mixture of relief, pride, and hard-won peace. She's gone for good, and from today forward, we're giving everyone a raise and a share of the profits. We fought for this together, and we'll thrive together. The energy that returned to Pan Dulce was joyous. The customers, who had become a community of supporters during the fight, returned in droves, their loyalty deeper than ever. We launched a new line of pastries, Sophia's Sunshine Muffins, and my daughter beamed with pride. I framed Abuela Rosa's original, handwritten recipe for the conchas and hung it behind the counter, not as a secret to be hidden, but as a testament to the legacy that had been defended. The business flourished like never before. The lesson I learned was etched into my soul. That peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of protected boundaries. I learned that no is a complete sentence, and that protecting what you love is not an act of aggression, but an act of profound love itself. My story is one of reclamation. I reclaimed my grandmother's legacy, my business, and my right to live my life without apology. The greatest revenge was not Isabella's financial and social ruin, but the profound, unshakable joy and prosperity I built from the crumbs of her betrayal. The bakery is more successful than ever, but its true value isn't in the revenue. Its value is in the warmth of the ovens, the laughter of my team, the pride in my daughter's eyes, and the knowledge that I defended this sacred, flower-dusted haven with every ounce of my strength. If you believe in standing up for yourself, in protecting what you've built with your own hands and heart no matter who you're standing up to, then you belong here with us. Make sure you like this story, subscribe to the Revenge Stories for more tales of justice, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that some fights are worth fighting, and that the sweetest victories are often baked from the toughest battles. For the strongest foundations are not built on avoiding conflict, but on having the courage to stand your ground, to protect your hearth, and to prove that even the gentlest hands can wield the sharpest truth.